Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, December 2nd, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered in my 47 years of experience doing therapy. These tools are gratefully available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. Many of us are not aware that we have that guidance system, but it's there, and that's a big part of these tools. It's helping us understand that guidance system and make the most of it. I've also been able to turn any negative emotional experience I have in the past 17 years, blessing or benefit, through the understanding of how I'm creating that experience and how when I create it, it's a signal for me that there's something amiss in my thought process. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click on the link, download it, print it off, copy it, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows like this one and shows where people have called in to give testimonials about this or actually been stepped through the worksheet process. You can go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, and you can get access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. So we hope you do that soon and often, because when people do that, it tends to lead to comments, questions, testimonials, requests for help in using the tools, and that's why we're here. We're also here this year to work through the Course in Miracles workbook lessons. Today's lesson, being that this is the 336th day of the year, today's lesson simply reads, Forgiveness lets me know that minds are joined. In the commentary here, it's one of the more powerful core teachings of the Course in Miracles. And the commentary says, forgiveness is the means appointed for perception's ending. So forgiveness is the way to end perception. Forgiveness is not anything to do with letting somebody else off the hook. Forgiveness is about removing distorted perception, removing content of my mind that is not accurate, removing anything from my mind-body energy field which keeps me from true perception, accurate perception of what actually is. In this work we talk about actuality, which is what's actually happening in life. It's not subject to distortion or interpretation or judgment. It's just the flow of life as it expands and unfolds. And then there is reality, the reality that I create through the process of perception. And each and every one of us is actively working to create pictures in our minds and then try to convince ourselves that those pictures that we've created inside our minds are the same as what's actually happening in the world. And that's never been the case, and it never will be the case. And so this lesson in Course in Miracles, lesson 336, the commentary begins right at the beginning, and it wants to clear something up here. In case you've missed it in all the other lessons, this process of forgiveness has nothing to do with pardoning people who have wronged you. This process of forgiveness is the way to end perception. It's the way to clarify the actuality of life. Commentary goes on to say, knowledge is restored, true knowledge about what actually is restored after perception is first changed, and then perception gives way entirely to that which remains forever past perception's highest reach. It is not possible for my mind to know the truth of life. My conscious logical mind, as Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery try to point out to us, is just a faithful servant. That's all my conscious logical mind was ever intended to be. It was not ever intended to be my whole being, my soul, the way I get in touch with the truth of life. It's just a faithful servant. The commentary goes on to say, for sights and sounds at best can serve but to recall the memory of what lies beyond them all. Sights and sounds are echoes of what actually is. And forgiveness sweeps away distortions and opens the hidden altar to the truth, the capital T truth of what actually is. So it goes on to say, in quiet, may forgiveness wipe away my dreams of separation and of sin, and then let me, Creator, look within and find your promise that my sinlessness is kept. Your word remains unchanged within my mind. Your love is still abiding within my heart. Course in Miracles Experiment, Lesson 336, is titled, Switch on the Invisible. Pam quotes Lisa Gungor as saying, the world is sneakier than I thought, more mysterious and filled with wonder than I boiled things down to. There's a lot more going on here than my conscious logical mind can comprehend. Pam writes, Lesson 336 tells me the highway no longer leads to interesting places. Its sights and sounds at best show me distortions of yesterday. Today, I happily enter uncharted territory by turning into what's invisible. I appoint Sakama, an aid worker from then, to be my role model. Sakama works with Afghani families caught between the forces of sectarian violence. Many have sons who, out of desperation, have joined ISIS or the Taliban. But Sakama refuses to see them that way, even when they point guns at her head. I know who you are, even if you don't, she says to them. You can't fool me. She sees beyond their story. She sees them as the Creator sees them, as a spark of herself. Instead of vengeance and bloodshed, she holds peace. She's able to call forth the invisible. Her vision of love and truth is so strong that she's able to enter dangerous situations, even war zones, without fear. Today, I recognize the power in seeing things differently. The current story of differences and danger is an unreliable guide. I practice instead seeing the Creator in everything. So that's our Course in Miracles workbook lesson for today and the Course in Miracles experiment commentary. And as usual, we've got about 50 minutes to take your comments, your questions, your requests for support. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. How can we support you today? What would be of use to you for us to spend this next 46, 48 minutes discussing? Today's a Thursday, and so it's appropriate to mention that tonight there will be a support group available for those who are interested. It's on Zoom. If you have internet access, you can join us. It's absolutely free. You're free to donate if you so desire, but there's no requirement for payment to join us in this support group. And it will run from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central Time, as it does almost every Thursday. We didn't have one last week because of the holiday, but we're here most Thursdays and Tuesdays, actually, and Thursdays. On both days, the hours are from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central. And we're doing more. It's like an extension of the Internet show, that there's more time for support. There's time to work through worksheets. There's time to answer questions. And frequently we listen to a speech or a video from somebody that we highly respect who has similar teachings to what are informed in the Kabbal's manuscript and in the Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery. And our purpose is to just help people understand the mechanisms that underlie the power behind these tools and find ways to apply them more effectively in their lives. Anything we can do to help you do that, we would be happy to do. Again, the call-in number is 563-999-3581. Call that number and press 1. In my work earlier today, I was listening, as I've mentioned, to a Pema Chodron book, and that book had some startling similarities or identical messages to the work that we do in Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery and Jesus' My Autobiography and the Kabbal's manuscript and the Mind Shifters radio show. And at one point she's talking about how in the Buddhist teachings, harm happens. So at one point, and relative to certain situations in our lives, while the core of your essence can't be harmed, who you are as a soul, as an entity, as a consciousness, can't be harmed. Nothing of value can be added unto you. Nothing of value can be taken from you. And yet, at another level of your existence, if you're hearing this, you have a physical body. You're participating in life as it unfolds, the creative force expressing in form. And so there are things like physical pain and physical comforts and food and clothes and sense of community and personal property and all of that stuff. So at that level, harm can happen. The question is, how do you address harm happening without jumping into blame? And what she says in that book is the challenge when we recognize that someone has had harm to them, the challenge is far more difficult than blaming. Challenge is to step into the question, how can I help the harm that has been done begin to unravel itself? Right? How can I work with the flow of life as it's unfolding to be a blessing for myself and others, to be an agent of change into something that is more harmonious. Harm happens. People harm themselves and each other, but not in that ultimate sense, in the relative sense. And the challenge is to turn all of it into lessons, into part of the path, or into part of the medicine. Rumi has a quote something like the following: presence of love, all pain becomes medicine. And that's one of the core teachings in this 9th chapter of, begin where you are or start where you are, from Pema Chodron in that book. She's talking about how it's possible to look at everything that happens and every person that you interact with, especially those that you don't like or you find resistance to, as lessons, as bringing to your awareness that part of your own consciousness that you don't like and you don't want to look at. It's either too painful or too scary or too intense, and so your mind hides it from you, and then your mind projects it into your image of another person. Pema Chodron says it this way: we dislike those who display our own rejected qualities because we have projected those qualities that we dislike in ourselves out onto the world around us. And then there was another aspect of what she was saying, and I distilled it this way. Every time I have an anger or any other negative emotion come up in my awareness, I could choose to recognize that this is a boulder I have been carrying around in my backpack. So, as soon as I have a negative emotion of any kind, anger, fear, sadness, hurt, guilt, shame, whatever, and if I scan the environment and make sure that I am not being under attack physically, my physical life isn't being threatened, the physical life of my family or loved ones is not being threatened, as soon as I realize there's no physical danger, I could choose to realize that I've just been given a glimpse into the backpack that I didn't know I was carrying, and one of the boulders in that backpack that's been weighing me down in life. And I could choose to use tools like the ones available at whyagain.org and actively apply them in my life to dismantle, to put down, or to disintegrate that boulder, the one that's just been revealed to me. It's gotten revealed because I stepped into a negative emotional state, because I began the experience. And it's an option, right? Many of the tools that we have available through mindshifters.org or the whyagain.org website, many of them are designed to help me explore what is the part of my consciousness that I'm hiding from myself. Some people would call that the unconscious. Some people would call it the part I'm not willing to look at. Some people would call it the fearful part of my mind. Whatever you want to call it, there are a number of tools on whyagain.org that are specifically designed to let me, if I choose to pick them up and use them, begin to discover what it is I'm running from in my own experience. Whether it's a traumatic energy, a negative thought about myself or somebody else, a negative belief about my life. One of those that we talk about quite frequently is the namesake of this show. It's the Mind Shifter tool. In my work as a psychologist, I call it targeted journaling because that's what it is. You pick a target, and then you let yourself free associate on it and write about it, and you block out about a minimum of an hour. Excuse me. That's grown over the years. When I first began working with Dr. Rice, he would recommend that you carve out an hour. Now, if you are in one of his seminars, he says a minimum of 2 hours. He goes, this is a big one. You should carve out 4 or 5 hours for this. Point is, you carve out some time where you will just right. You won't get distracted by music. You're not, burning incense. You're not answering the phone. You're not looking at your phone. You're not watching a TV in the background. You carve out the time to sit and just allow yourself to free associate to whatever the mind shifter statement is. And you write the mind shifter statement on the left side of the piece of paper, draw a vertical line to separate that statement from the right side of the piece of paper, and let yourself free associate to that statement as you write whatever comes to your mind for the next minimum of an hour. This is a way to explore what might be hiding, or what you might be hiding from yourself in your conscious awareness. And what people discover as they allow themselves to use that tool is they start writing stuff that really surprises them, and or they tap into emotions that they weren't aware of minutes before. And the more people are willing to step into that process and use the tool, the more they discover about what they've been actively hiding from themselves. Another tool that helps me discover what I might be hiding from myself is titled The 3 Early Memories of Conflict. And this is a tool where I give myself time to sit down, and it's another tool that's available from the website, whyagain.org, whyagain.org. And I let myself remember 3 memories of conflict from an earlier time in my life. And just go back as early as I can. It doesn't mean I have to remember what happened in my first year of life, or what happened, in the delivery room when my parents were welcoming me into the world. Just whatever comes up as one of the earlier memories that I have, I use it. And it's one of my early memories of conflict. Maybe I'm in my 60s and I can't remember back to when I was in my 20s. So maybe I remember something from my 30s or my 40s. That still fits the definition of one of my earlier memories of conflict. So I come up with 3 of them, whether it was in my single-digit years, my double-digit, my 30s, etc. I list them, and then there's a worksheet for this, and then it prompts me that for each one of those, I imagine I'm interviewing myself at that earlier age, right after this event of conflict happened, and I fill in the blanks. I answer the sentence stems. I feel, I need, life is, relationships are, etc. And as I go through that exercise, I will tap into things in my own consciousness that I have not been aware of. And if you're lucky, if you're like most people, it will start to express itself in a way that will give you insight into how you've actually been reliving patterns, somewhat traumatic patterns, that you downloaded in those earlier years, and you've just been replaying them time and time again in your life, rather than living your life as a full-fledged adult, meeting each situation anew and responding with clarity, with insight, with adult coping mechanisms, etc. Rather than that happening, what most of us find when we do that worksheet is, oh my gosh, I've been replaying patterns from my childhood downloaded when I thought I was facing a conflict or a confrontation. And so instead of dealing with this as a full-fledged adult psychologist with plenty of life experience and coping mechanisms and training, I'm essentially reenacting how I survived a traumatic incident or an intense conflict when I was age 6 or age 9. So that's another tool I can use to uncover some parts of my mind that I have been hiding from myself. So it's the exploration of consciousness, which is one of the primary activities in this work. And then, of course, if I uncover some aspect of my consciousness that is unproductive, continually keeps me stuck in unhealthy relationship patterns, or continually has me generating a negative emotional state, then there are tools like the Reality Management Worksheet and the EFT tapping and breath work to help me dismantle that energy. So it's that two-pronged approach. I want to remind myself that my ability to be alive and awake and aware is a miracle and is a gift. And anytime I forget that, I'm not consciously aware of that, what my next step could be is picking up a tool and beginning to work to dismantle that part of my thought process, that errant part of my perception that's actively working in that moment to hide from me awareness of my true nature. There's another tool on that page, another worksheet that is titled the Codependence Interdependence Worksheet. And it ties right into what we were talking about from the Pema Chodron book earlier, where she says, every person I see that I judge as bad or wrong or irritating is basically a representation of some parts of myself I don't like that I have projected out onto the world around me. This is exactly what I have codified as one of the 10 bottom line observations, where I say, I will never be upset about anything anybody else ever says or doesn't do that I think they should, unless I'm still judging myself negatively for doing the same or similar thing. So, Dr. Michael Rice has tapped into that very same wisdom, and he has what is called the Codependent to Interdependent Worksheet. And in that one, he invites us to take a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper and turn it sideways so it's like landscape form, and draw a line to create one column on the left. And in that column, the heading of the column is people who have offended me. And I just list the names of people who have offended me. Then I create a second column just to the right of that, and I title that column, What They Did to Offend Me. And I write just a short narrative of what it was they did to offend me. Then I create a third column to the right of that, and the title of that column is My Punishment Thought for That Person. So here's this person. They stole $100 from me, and what I'd like to do is punch them in the face, or I'd like to take them to small claims court and recover, my money and attorney's fees, or whatever it is, whatever my punishment thought is. Then I make another column just to the right of that. The fourth column is titled My Advice to This Person. So whoever has offended me in my life, if I've taken offense based on something anybody has done, you better believe I think I know what they should be doing better or differently. And that's what I write in this column. My advice to the person who stole $100 from me is, mind your own business, be honest to others, whatever it is. And I do that for everybody that I've listed that I believe has offended me. And then the fifth column to the right of that, I write at the top of there, and I give this column the title, What I'm Going to Do to Apply My Advice to These People in My Life. Absolutely perfect advice for me. It might be good advice for them, but if it comes out of my mouth in the format of advice for somebody else, one thing I can know absolutely for certain is that however good that advice might be for somebody else, it's perfect advice for me. Here's another tool that I can use to explore the hidden parts of my consciousness. What is it that keeps me from seeing what I could do differently to improve my life? Whatever those things are, they are hidden in my consciousness from my awareness. And the more I can uncover them, the more I can make them conscious, the better the chance that my life will improve. Right? You are, whether you realize it or not, in possession of a guidance system which can guide you more accurately, more efficiently, more directly to an improved life than any external guru, than any external source or idea that you might pursue. Your access to the wisdom that is as good or better than any guru, any master, any teacher, your access to that exists inside you. This is what they would call the still small voice. And what we're talking about is ways to tune into it, recognize it's there, be introduced to it, tune into it, and then learn to listen to it. That's the essence of all of this. Anything we can do to, Guy Finley says, wisdom is about waking up to your true nature. Wisdom is learning about self. Another thing he says is the wisdom is the gradual erosion of the illusion that you're separate from anyone or anything. So the more you learn about others, the more you're learning about yourself. The more good you do for yourself, the more gently you learn to treat yourself, the more gently and the more positive ripple effects you'll send out into the world for you to experience in life. Because the ancient wisdom comes out and says, look, whatever you do to anybody else, you're doing to yourself. We're all connected. Right? Einstein talks about the way Michael Rice rearranges the Einstein quote is, he says, if you think you're separate from anyone or anything, you're living in an optical delusion. Right? Everything is energy, and all energy is connected. So if you think you're separate from anyone or anything, you're living in an optical delusion. We're all connected. Einstein, in that quote, goes on to say, this illusion of separation leads us to create special affection for certain people and things closest to us, which we tend to like, and we think this is wonderful. It can give us the endorphin buzz, and it feels good and lights us up from the inside out. But Einstein says this special affection basically creates a prison for us. It erroneously leads us to believe we need this particular interaction with just these people or things, and it creates a feeling of a prison for us, because then if that person walks away or leaves, then we feel we've been assaulted or hurt, etc. And so what he says is the way out of that prison, the way to dismantle that prison, is to extend that special affection. So hear this clearly. There's nothing wrong with the special affection. There's nothing wrong with having affection for people and things close to you. But if that's the only thing you have those feelings for, you create a prison for yourself. The way out of that prison is to extend that affection to everyone and all of creation, because it's all connected. We are connected. The essence of one is the essence of all. And if you treat yourself lovingly, it will be the roots of you treating others lovingly. If you treat yourself viciously and abusively, then it will be the roots of you treating others viciously and abusively. I was having a conversation earlier with somebody who was talking about this pattern of perfectionism. And I found myself saying, okay, here's the thing. This perfectionism has nothing to do with perfection. Perfectionism is a label that people have given to themselves or others to describe a pattern of ways to excuse being brutally abusive to themselves. Perfectionism is a label for the excuse to be brutally abusive with myself. I have known people, for decades I have known people who introduce themselves as being a perfectionist. But maybe they're 5 foot tall to 5.5 feet tall, and they weigh 400 to 600 pounds. Or they're, they call themselves a perfectionist, but they're in the throes of ravaging their physical, mental, and emotional life with an addictive pattern. So no one is that, quote, perfect, close quotes. No one is living up to that ideal in every area of their lives all the time. So anybody who tells you I'm a perfectionist, what they're really saying is, when I use that label perfectionist, that gives me permission to be brutally abusive to myself every time I don't like what I did in one way or another. Perhaps it is part of what people use as an excuse for procrastinating. Well, I can't submit, this paper for the deadline for the news item because it isn't perfect yet. I can't let you see me play the piano because I might make a mistake. I can't sing with a group of people out in public because my voice isn't as good as my favorite opera singer. So it's an excuse to be abusive to myself, to label myself as bad or wrong or not good enough. It has nothing to do with achieving an idealized standard. So, there's our extended intro. We have plenty of time for comments. Got about 17 or 18 minutes left. 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. How is anything about this discussion resonating with you? What would you like to discuss relative to perfectionism or putting people on a pedestal or Pema Chodron's book or any of the worksheets that are listed that we were just discussing from the Michael Rice website, any of the tools that we have available for free to help us explore the hidden or fearful parts of our mind. 563-999-3581. Call that number, press 1. Share your thoughts, your comments, your questions about tonight's support group. Welcome, Susan.
Oh, Dr. Tim, I've missed your whole show because there's a lot going on around here, but I'm back, and I didn't hear any of your intro, but I did finish your November 26th radio show, which I thought was so wonderful and so funny in a way. You said, not only did I have this insight, but I heard a voice saying, don't talk about it on the radio show. So here you are. You were talking about...
It was the absolute next thought immediately after that insight.
Yeah. And why, I mean, I have some thoughts about that, but why did that voice come in? What were you afraid of?
Well, it's not that I was actually afraid of it, because if I was, I wouldn't have talked about it on Friday, but it's the conditioning, and the primary thought was, well, you're actually saying blasphemy here in most religions. You're saying don't put God on a pedestal. Don't put your thoughts about God on a pedestal. Don't put Jesus on a pedestal. Don't put your teachers on a pedestal. And that was the connected thoughts in my mind.
That was the Catholic boy's thought. Yeah.
Well, and any other religion, right, or most other religions would say the same thing. That's blasphemy. It is.
They would, but
Go ahead.
There is it just dawned on me when you were talking about God on a pedestal. I can understand every other person, because every other person that we learn about, saints, sages, friends, teachers, mentors, anybody, they have attributes. They walked the earth or did. We can describe them in some way. And I never understood until what you said, the reason we call God God and have not an inkling of any attributes of God except by sort of remote attribution, or I don't know the word.
Conditioned thought.
Yeah, it's whatever we think about anything or anyone is a projection, but with God, we have nothing to go on. And when I've always struggled with the fact that people say you must love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And I say, well, then that's the end of me. God isn't, it's impossible. And so in my rebellion, I hug my cat and I say, I love you. And I mean it with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. I say that to my cat because I've got my cat right here. We don't have God. So I was thinking the kind of love they're talking about isn't a kind of love I think I know anything about. You could translate it revere, worship, honor, appreciate, be grateful toward, but to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so, but why? God is called God because God wants not to be limited in any way, defined in any way. That's why we can't put attributes on God. That's the one thing that we can't, on one level we can, of course, but on another level we cannot idolize God. We cannot put God on a pedestal.
Watch what you're saying there when you say what God wants.
Yeah. Well, okay, but it seems as if...
In that moment, you have just anthropomorphized God.
Absolutely, I get it. Okay, so just hear what I just said and forget I said it and put any words to it, because there's a truth to what I'm trying to tell you. And don't send up a smoke screen so that we can't get the point across. You know what I mean?
Not yet.
God
Keep going.
God is the most attribute-less entity, and yet the most important entity in my life. Now, have I just put God on a pedestal? Probably just by calling God the most important. But God seems to be elusive for a reason. I never thought about the reason before. The reason is because it is less possible to idolize God than anything else because of the elusiveness, there are no parameters. It's like God's center is everywhere and His circumference is nowhere.
I can help you with that, right? Because I can tell you what God is.
Yeah,
Are you ready?
right.
I'm going to tell you what God is. I can, and I'm going to right now. Take a breath.
Yeah.
Open your mind. Open your mind. I'm going to tell you what God is. Soften and breathe. Here comes the absolute truth. God is a 3-letter word in the English language.
Okay. All right. From the sublime to the teeniest.
Every word is a symbol of a symbol. So it's at least 2 levels removed from any actuality. Every word is a symbol of a symbol. Now, how come it's not just a symbol of a thing? Well, because the thing, as it exists, has some kind of an interaction with my sense system of perception, and my mind creates an image or a picture of that thing. That's the first symbol. My experience of it is not the thing. It's an interpretation. It's a perception. It's a label, an image in my mind, a smell, a sense of touch, etc. And then, for that experience I have, which is a symbol of the actuality, then I create another symbol called a word, so I can communicate to another human being through the use of a symbol about a symbol. So just to take the edge off of all of the intensity you were just thinking about God, just understand that all of that is just about a symbol of a symbol.
Right.
And the religions that we have experienced on this planet have invested so much in those symbols that they're willing to kill other human beings for their investment in the symbol of a symbol. Their investment of value given to the symbol of a symbol.
Yep. Agree. Well, going in the other direction, anything we define in any way or acknowledge as perceiving is, I'm probably going too far with this idea. We are already off the mark. So maybe we haven't put them on a pedestal, and it's good to remember that some beings and things are put on pedestals to our detriment, but that everything we think we know, we think we see, maybe isn't put on a pedestal, but is interpreted by us, therefore the thing itself.
Yes, we give everything the meaning that it has for us through our interpretation of them, moment to moment. Everything, every person, every thought, every belief, every memory of experience, we give it whatever meaning it has for us each and every moment.
Yeah.
And the good news there is, if I wake up and recognize, oh, I've given this thing a meaning that's generating pain in my life, I can change the meaning I give it.
Yep.
I could also interpret it negatively and say, oh my gosh, if things only have the meaning I give them, then nothing has any meaning and my life is worthless and I might as well end it all or whatever. But that's just another set of interpretations and meanings that I could be giving to this experience of life in this moment.
Right. Well, okay, so going back to the first part of our discussion, we cannot see or know God, and this is my thought about this is God's wisdom, because we can't idealize God or idolize God. But you undercut even that by saying I was already giving some kind of a parameter or an outline or a shape or
human
an attribute
quality.
to God.
Human quality
Yeah.
to the
Okay.
mind of God, right.
Okay. But it is, can I say that it's absolutely brilliant? It's a brilliant, as far as the human mind can go, it's the most brilliant way to wiggle out of being idolized, even though it doesn't work.
Okay.
Sorry,
that's a fun mind game you're playing, but, it's just a mind game. But that could be a fun one.
Okay.
Right? Again, you've set this up as though there's some entity out there that can have fun, that can be offended, that can be et cetera, and that's a human characteristic.
I know.
But
I know.
here, just this much. Just say this much. So all these great teachings tell us, look, you're trying to put words on, you're trying to comprehend with your conscious logical mind things that go way beyond what your physical senses can experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you, with that conscious logical mind, you only get tapped into a tiny, tiny fraction of everything your physical senses can experience. And your physical senses can only experience a tiny fraction of all there is in actuality in life, right? Our physical senses can't comprehend, can't register radio waves or X-rays or see light waves beyond the limited visible spectrum, etc., can't hear sounds that other animals can hear. So our physical senses are extraordinarily limited, and then our mind, the conscious logical mind, only tracks a tiny fraction of what those senses register. So trying to put words on it, trying to comprehend it with the conscious logical mind is the root of the error.
Mm-hmm. And yet the weirdest thing is that everyone, I imagine, has somehow managed to have a moment where all of that is bypassed and they feel this peace or joy or deep, deep excitement about being alive. Just a sense without any words to it.
It goes beyond words, right.
Yeah. And going back to even more, I mean, I heard a snippet of what you were saying, and then I had to get off the phone again. You were talking about using the tools. That has been the byproduct of using the tools. I couldn't possibly list to you all the ahas I've had along the way, but the global common denominator of using those tools is to find myself, and I know other people do this too, in a state beyond words where everything is all right. Everything's more than all right. It's absolutely fantastic and so exciting and so deeply affirmed. And yet why? I mean, I come back to my mind, I think, I'm an old person. How many years on the planet do I have left? This trouble is going on, climate change, anti-vax, vax, all this stuff. It bypasses everything for a moment now and again, and the moments get stretched bigger and bigger after using tools on the individual nitty little issues. There's something like being Rumpelstiltskin. You jump up and down, and pretty soon you just fall through the floor. A hole is made, and you fall through into something else.
I think you're onto it. that experience that, goes past words, each new heartbeat, and it gives us, it taps us into an energy that goes beyond words. It taps us into an experience that can't be described in words. And the more we learn about ourselves and the parts of our mind that we hide from ourselves, every part of my mind that I hide from myself blocks me from seeing the magnificence of the life that is expressing through me, in me, as me, and through me each moment.
So if you have someone saying, why stir the pot? Why look at these issues? Why bother? My life is functioning. That is the answer. That's the why. It's because there is a benefit beyond.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you can't know life itself until you know yourself fully. So there you are. Thanks for the last 10 minutes of exciting conversation. It's wonderful, as always, to have you put the questions out there and help us pass the hour. I thank you for that, and I will mute you so we can make the transition. And I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice. I will turn on your microphone, and hopefully you're ready for that. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Well, thank you, Dr. Tian. Appreciate you.
You're very welcome.
Have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Have a great show.
Thank you.